The December holidays have a way of turning the mind into a quiet attic, full of old boxes you didn't realize you'd kept, ribbons of memory tucked into corners, the soft rustle of time when you move too quickly, and it reminds you to slow down. Something about the end of a year invites reflection, not because the calendar is magical, but because we are. We notice more in December. We feel the weight of what changed and what stayed. We think about who we've loved, who we've lost, who we meant to call, what we promised ourselves, what we forgave, what we carried anyway. And in the middle of all that remembering, there's often a simple comfort. The way a familiar home can hold a family's life, the way a bowl holds warm soup, quietly, steadily, without asking for explanations. Tonight, we'll follow a family through generations, through years that glittered with ease, through years that required thrift and patience, through ordinary days that didn't seem important at the time, and through a handful of extraordinary moments that changed everything. We'll do it from one steady vantage point, a faithful old grandfather clock in the front hall of a house that stays standing as the world transforms around it. The clock will do what clocks do. It will keep time without judgment. It will count the minutes of laughter and the minutes of worry in the same calm rhythm. It will watch children become parents and parents become grandparents. It will see fashions and music and technology come and go like weather, as natural as the turning of leaves. And as it keeps time, it will witness something even more enduring than time itself, the way love can move through a home and settle into the corners like warmth. Before we begin, it's time to get comfortable. If you haven't already, you can lower the brightness around you, place your phone out of reach, and let the day's noise soften at the edges. Give yourself permission to stop performing, to stop managing, to stop bracing. Let your shoulders drop as if they've been carrying a coat that's suddenly been lifted away. Let your jaw unclench. Let your hands rest, open and easy, as though they've remembered they don't need to hold anything right now. Feel the support beneath you, bed, pillow, blanket, holding you without effort, and let your breathing become simple. In and out, in and out. No forcing, no fixing. Just air moving in and out like a tide that knows where it's going. The end of the year arrives like a soft bell at the far end of a hallway, gentle but clear. It doesn't demand anything, but it does remind us that time keeps moving, even when we feel stuck. The holidays gather memories the way snow gathers on a windowsill, layer by layer, quietly, until one day you look and realize how much has collected. And yes, the world can feel sharp sometimes, unjust, loud, a little too bright in the wrong places and too dark in others. But even then, we carry a quiet power, the ability to be a soft place in a hard day, the ability to be kind without needing applause, the ability to offer a small warmth that makes the whole room feel safer. If you've felt tired, stretched thin, or simply human lately, let this be a gentle reminder. Your kindness matters, even when it feels small. The light you carry matters, even when you can't see it. And for now, you can rest. You can set the world down. You can let time hold you for a while. Now, if you're ready, we'll step into a story. The year is 1904, somewhere in the United States, in a town that is still deciding what it wants to be. There are new streets and old roads, horse hooves and the occasional motor car, the scent of coal smoke mixing with the clean smell of winter air. On a street near the edge of town stands a house that looks as if someone tried to build a promise out of wood and glass. It has a wide porch that wraps around the front, sturdy columns, a tall bay window, and a roofline that angles and peaks like it was designed to catch snow in graceful shapes. In the late afternoon, when the sun is low, the front window glows as if the house is lit from within, even before anyone lights a lamp. The house belongs to the Wren family, Elias Wren and his wife Nora. They came from modest beginnings, the kind of beginnings that teach you the quiet usefulness of patience. Elias learned carpentry from his uncle. Nora learned how to make a home feel generous even when there wasn't much extra to spare. They saved slowly. They said no to small luxuries so they could say yes to something bigger. And when the house was finally finished, when the last board was planed smooth, when the paint dried and the porch steps were swept, Elias did one more thing before he called the place complete. He brought in a grandfather clock. It arrived wrapped in thick cloth, carried by careful hands, as if it were a person that needed help standing. Elias guided it into the front hall himself, directing the men with a seriousness that made Nora smile. When the cloth was pulled away, the clock seemed to take up space, not just physically, but emotionally, like a dignified guest who has been invited to stay a very long time. Its body was dark oak, polished until it held the lamplight in soft reflections. The carvings were delicate, not showy. Small leaves, gentle curves, a quiet craftsmanship that felt like confidence. The face was pale and clear, with thin black numbers and hands that looked precise enough to cut time into neat slices. Behind the glass, a brass pendulum waited, still and patient. Nora stood beside Elias, hands clasped in front of her, and whispered as though she didn't want to startle the clock into pride. "It feels like a guardian," she said. Elias nodded. "A house needs something steady," he replied. "Something that keeps going, even when we don't." That evening, after the men left and the front hall grew quiet, Elias wound the clock carefully. The key turned with small, satisfying clicks. He set the pendulum in motion with a gentle push, and the house received its first heartbeat. Tick, tick, tick. The sound wasn't loud, but it filled the spaces between things. It moved along the hallway like a calm thread, stitching the home together. It was the sort of sound that makes a place feel inhabited even when no one speaks. And from that moment on, the clock kept time for everything that would ever happen beneath that roof. The Wrens had 2 children, June, who was 11, and already practicing the steady grace of adulthood, and Arthur, who was 7, and made stillness look like a temporary condition. To them, the new house was not just a house. It was a kingdom. It was a ship. It was a maze. They ran up the stairs, socks whispering on polished wood, and disappeared into upstairs rooms like explorers. They played hide-and-seek behind half-open doors and inside closets that still smelled faintly of pine and fresh paint. Nora called them down gently when their footsteps became too wild, reminding them the house was new and deserved a little reverence, the way you might revere something you've wished for a long time. But most of life happened on the main floor, and the grandfather clock stood in the front hall like a steady witness. Everyone who entered removed their coat near the clock. Umbrellas were shaken out beneath its gaze. Packages were handed off there. Quick greetings, lingering goodbyes, nervous apologies, delighted surprises, all of it happened within the clock's quiet reach. And then December arrived, bringing that particular hush that comes when cold weather makes people move a little closer to one another. Nora decided they would have a Christmas tree, which was becoming fashionable in town. Elias pretended to grumble, but his eyes softened when he saw June and Arthur's excitement. A pine tree was brought in, tall and fragrant, its needles bright and alive. Nora placed it in the parlor near the front window so the neighborhood could see it glowing from the street. "Let it be a little gift," she said, adjusting the branches, "for anyone who passes by." They decorated it with care. Elias had ordered a handful of glass ornaments, delicate globes that caught lamplight and turned it into tiny moons. Nora strung popcorn and cranberries, her fingers moving with the calm rhythm of a practiced maker. June created paper stars with careful edges. Arthur made something that looked like a lopsided bird and insisted it was a rare winter dove. Nora smiled and placed it proudly on a branch where it could be seen. The children begged for candles on the tree because they had heard some families did that. Elias refused immediately. "I did not build this house," he said, "to set it on fire in the name of tradition." Instead, Nora placed extra lamps around the room, and the parlor glowed warmly, safe and snug. On Christmas Day, the front hall became a fluttering place. Visitors arrived bundled in coats, cheeks pink from the cold, carrying wrapped parcels and tins of sweets and small bright cards with snowy scenes printed in gold. The clock watched each guest step inside, stamping snow from their boots, looking up to admire the hall and the warm parlor beyond. It heard compliments offered in polite tones. It heard Nora's delighted laughter. It heard Arthur's excited whispers as he tried to guess which packages were for him. There was a meal in the dining room, roast and warm bread and butter softening near the hearth. There were songs in the parlor later, sung gently and not always in tune. There were games and stories, and a moment when carolers arrived at the door, their voices rising into the cold night like breath made musical. Through it all, the clock chimed the hours with steady confidence, as if to say, "Yes, this matters. Yes, you are here. Yes, this moment is real." Later, when the guests had gone and the house grew quiet, June and Arthur fell asleep on the lower stairs, their bodies folded in the trusting way of children who know they are safe. Elias carried them to bed one by one, careful not to wake them fully. Nora lingered in the hall, the last lamp glowing softly, and for a moment her hand rested on the clock's wooden frame, not superstitious, not dramatic, just grateful. And then she turned out the light, and the house sank into silence, held by the steady tick of time. Tick, tick, tick. Years passed as gently as pages turning. The clock watched June grow into a young woman with thoughtful eyes. It watched Arthur grow tall, his restless energy turning into a bright ambition. It heard conversations about school and work, about new inventions arriving in town, about the world feeling bigger than it had once seemed. Some years were prosperous and light. Some years were lean, filled with quiet budgeting and careful choices. But each year, December returned. Each year, the tree appeared in the parlor window. Each year, the front hall filled with the familiar choreography of coats, parcels, greetings. 20 years after that first Christmas, the neighborhood had changed. The trees were taller. The street was busier. The house looked a little more lived in, which is a kind of beauty of its own. Elias and Nora were older now, moving more slowly, sitting more often in comfortable chairs. Elias's hair had turned mostly silver. Nora's hands were thinner, the veins more visible but still capable and gentle. June had married a man named Cal Porter and moved back into the Wren house with their children, because Elias and Nora liked the idea of the home staying in the family. "Let the years gather here," Nora said. "Let the house remember for us." June and Cal had 3 children: Hazel, who was 11 and observant, Simon, who was 9 and curious, and little Willa, who was 5 and ran as though the world was always inviting her to play. Christmas in those years felt familiar and new. The tree still stood in the window, but now it glittered with electric lights, small miracles that twinkled without flame. June loved the effect, even if she called it a bit indulgent. The clock listened as the family marveled at the modern glow, as if the house itself had learned a new way to shine. And then, as the world shifted, the tone of the home shifted too. There were years when the parlor filled with jazz from a new phonograph. There were evenings when Hazel and Simon pushed back the rug to dance, laughing when they got the steps wrong. There were seasons when the family mended what they had, reused ribbons, repaired ornaments rather than replacing them. The clock saw the way thrift and joy can live together, the way a smaller meal can still feel abundant if it's made with care. Then came harder years, the kind that arrive quietly at first, like a draft beneath a door. People spoke more softly about money. Some pieces of furniture disappeared, sold without drama to keep the house steady. Decorations were used year after year, and some ornaments were patched and tied and made to last because the family decided that making things last was its own kind of celebration. In those years, a radio arrived, big and boxy, warm-toned wood, a glowing dial like a small sunrise. It became a new hearth. The family gathered around it in the evenings, listening to distant voices and music carried through the air like invisible ribbons. The clock, steady in the hall, did not understand the radio, but it understood what it did. It gathered people together. It made the parlor feel less alone. Time, as always, kept moving. Tick, tick, tick. When another war arrived, the house grew quieter again. Young men left. Letters arrived. The family learned how to live with waiting. Christmases during those years were smaller, softer, handled gently like glass. The tree still went up, but there were fewer gifts. There was more listening than talking. The radio played news that made the adults' faces tighten, and then, later, it played music that softened them again. The clock watched hands fold in prayer without anyone calling it prayer. It watched people hold one another for a second longer than usual at the front door. And eventually, the war years passed, and the house exhaled. The parlor grew loud again. Babies arrived. Children's laughter bounced against the walls. The front hall filled with boots and mittens and the easy chaos of family gatherings. The clock watched new traditions appear, new recipes, new jokes, new ornaments made by children who would someday be adults standing in that same hall. By the time the 1960s arrived, the parlor had transformed in ways Elias and Nora could never have imagined. The furniture was lower, sleeker. The colors were bolder. A carpet covered the hardwood floors. The heavy drapes were replaced with lighter curtains. A television sat in the corner like a shining window into another world. Children lay on the floor in front of it, feet kicking idly, faces lit by shifting light. Adults watched too, half fascinated, half skeptical, but always together. The Christmas tree that year blazed with multicolored lights, and some of the bulbs had tiny bubbling liquid inside, like miniature weather. The children squealed with delight. Stockings lined the mantel, more than the clock could easily count, because the family had grown wide and branching like an old tree. And Santa arrived, as Santa often does in lively houses, not as a mystery, but as a tradition performed with love. Someone in a suit boomed, "Ho, ho, ho," handing gifts to children who alternated between wonder and suspicion. The littlest ones cried. The older ones stared hard, trying to solve the puzzle. The adults laughed until their eyes watered. Later, when the back door opened quietly and the same Santa suit slipped upstairs, only the clock saw. It did not tell. It simply kept time. Tick, tick, tick. A few years after that, the grandfather clock began to falter. It had been wound less carefully, maintained less often. Its rhythm drifted. Its chimes arrived a little late sometimes, or a little early, as if the clock itself were growing tired. It still stood tall, still dignified, but its heart was no longer perfectly steady. The house, too, entered a quieter phase. For the first time, older family members moved away. People talked about smaller homes, warmer places, easier living. The Wren house, once the great dream, became briefly too large for the people living inside it. But it did not empty. A younger generation stayed. A woman named Mary Ann Wren, Hazel's granddaughter, moved in with her husband, Lee. Their daughter, Olive, grew up in those same hallways. Olive was quiet and imaginative. She loved the house in a modern way, curling up with books, drawing on the floor, building little worlds with toys. Sometimes she sat in the front hall with her art spread beside her, and the silent grandfather clock loomed above, dusty and still, like a sleeping guardian. The Christmases in those years were peaceful, softer, smaller, still warm, still real. The tree still glowed in the parlor window, though sometimes with fewer ornaments, sometimes with mismatched lights that blinked out of rhythm. There were bowls of popcorn, mugs of cocoa, movies on the television, laughter that came in quieter waves. The house held it all without complaint. The clock, even silent, still witnessed. And then, as December of 1993 approached, something wonderful happened. Mary Ann decided the house deserved to breathe again. Not by forcing it to look like the past, but by helping it feel like itself. The wall-to-wall carpet was pulled up, revealing hardwood floors beneath. Scuffed, yes, but beautiful in the way old things can be when they've endured. The fireplace, unused for years, was repaired. The first fire crackled again, and the parlor seemed to exhale, as if it had been holding its breath for decades. Mary Ann chose warm earth tones and soft fabrics. She brought back a few framed pictures, hung lightly, thoughtfully. She placed a basket of blankets near the hearth. The room did not become Victorian. It did not become modern in a harsh way. It became comfortable, timeless in the way comfort can be. And then she did the most important thing. She called a clockmaker. He arrived in a neat coat with a small leather bag of tools. And when he opened the grandfather clock, he did it the way you open a long-closed book, carefully, respectfully, with the sense that stories live inside. He cleaned the gears. He oiled the mechanisms. He adjusted the pendulum. He wound it with calm confidence. And then, with a small, gentle push, he set the pendulum swinging again. Tick, tick, tick. The sound returned to the front hall like a familiar voice. Olive stood beside her mother, listening as though she could hear the house itself waking up. "It sounds safe," she whispered. Marianne smiled and brushed Olive's hair back. "It always was," she said. "We just forgot how to listen." That Christmas, the family gathered in a way that made the house feel full again. Grandparents returned with bags of gifts. Cousins arrived, taller than Olive remembered. Aunts and uncles filled the front hall with chatter. The tree in the parlor window glittered wildly, overloaded with ornaments, as if everyone had decided that more was better simply because it felt joyful. Children draped tinsel everywhere. They argued about where the star should go. They insisted on holiday cartoons while adults pretended to be annoyed but secretly enjoyed the sound of it. Someone found an old record and played it, and someone else laughed at the scratchy sound, as if the music itself were smiling. On Christmas Eve, everyone wore flannel pajamas and opened one gift each. Olive received a small gadget that beeped and delighted her completely. Somewhere down the hall, a remote-controlled car zipped through the front hall and nearly bumped the base of the grandfather clock. The clock did not mind. It simply ticked on, patient and steady, counting the seconds of joy the same way it counted everything else. On Christmas Day, the house felt balanced. 3 generations were there, gathered beneath a roof that had held so many Decembers. The parlor, changed by time, was still filled with love. The front hall, busy as always, still welcomed arrivals the way it always had. And the grandfather clock chimed exactly on the hour, resonant and sure. Tick, tick, tick. And now, as the story settles, you can let that steady rhythm settle too, like a warm blanket being pulled gently up to your shoulders. You can let your thoughts slow down the way a house quiets after guests have gone home. You can imagine the day falling away behind you like a coat placed on a hook in a warm front hall. You don't need to hold anything up right now. You don't need to solve anything tonight. Time will keep moving, patiently, without asking you to hurry. And just like that faithful old clock, you can keep your own quiet faith in what endures. Warmth, kindness, small moments, familiar rooms, and the steady love that returns again and again, like December. Tick, tick, tick. And you can drift softly into sleep.
remembers, my heart always will. The leaves would fall, but love remains. Every moment carved, it can't be changed. Though the years may fade, the song is true. Every autumn night I dream of you. On autumn hills I hear your name. Nothing ever feels the same. Through the shadows, soft and clear, love still whispers, I am near. The river hums a tender tune. Stars above still guard the moon. Though the night is cold, my heart is warm. In your memory I am reborn. On autumn hills I'll always stay, till the dawn brings back the day. Through the silence, soft and still, I'll be yours on autumn hill. Drifting in the autumn air, every star is shining there. Whispers float on silver skies. Love is glowing in your eyes. Gentle breezes hum a song, telling me where I belong. In the stillness, soft and true, every dream returns to you. Dreaming in the autumn night, everything just feels so right. Hold me close, don't let me go. Love will always gently play. through the silence, soft and small. Hear my heart, it tells it all. Let the world toss and turn. Let the midnight lanterns burn. I've got no fear, I've got no fear, as long as you're near. Let the wind change the night. Let the moon hide behind the as long as you're near. I don't need return. I don't need time. Just your smile when you whisper my name. When night is shine with stars and tears, as long as you're near. If the stars all fade away, if the songs forget to play, I'll still have love into your as long as you're near. I'll get by year and year, as long as you're you're near. Autumn breeze, you softly call my name. Every star above shines just the same. Through the golden leaves, drifting far away. Love is in the air at the close of day. Pigeons come drifting through the night. No need to speak, no need to cry. Just close your eyes. Sweet lullaby. I've sung this song 100 ways, but none as soft as summer haze. And now I sing it just for you, to send you off with skies of blue. I understand till you're asleep, and guard the dreams you softly keep, till morning paints the waiting sky. Close your eyes, sweet lullaby. Sweet lullaby. Golden leaves begin to fall, drifting through the air. Every moment takes me back to the love we shared. In the glow of autumn skies, holding hands so tight, every whispered dream felt so pure, so right. In the quiet evening breeze, your laughter fills the night. Memories of youthful hearts shining warm and bright. Though the seasons come and go, I still hear your song. Love that bloomed in autumn stays forever strong. Autumn's first love, sweet and true. Every day I dream of you. To the years, the skies above keep me close to autumn's love. By the river's gentle flow, silver skies would dream. We would talk of endless days lost in tender dreams. above keep me close to autumn's when the autumn comes, shadows start to grow. Every leaf reminds me of the love I know. Lonely winds are sighing, whispering your name. Yet the night keeps telling me it's not the same. See the though the world keeps turning, love has lost its way. Still my heart is yearning every night and day. When the autumn calls my heart, dreams of you will never part. silver sky so calm and still. My heart remembers, my heart always will. The leaves would fall, but love remains. Every moment carved, it can't be changed. Though the years may fade, the song is true. Every autumn night I dream of you. On autumn hills I hear your name. Nothing ever feels the same. Through the shadows, soft and clear, love still whispers, I am near. The river hums a tender tune. Stars above still guard the moon. Though the night is cold, my heart is warm. In your memory I am reborn. On autumn hills I'll always stay, till the dawn brings back the day. Through the silence, soft and still, I'll be yours on autumn hill. Drifting in the autumn air, every star is shining there. Whispers float on silver skies. Love is glowing in your eyes. Gentle breezes hum a song, telling me where I belong. In the stillness, soft and true, every dream returns to you. Dreaming in the autumn night, everything just feels so right. Hold me close, don't let me go. Love will always gently play. dreams belong to you. Moonlight serenade of fall, softly, gently, hear my call. Through the night we'll drift away till the dawn brings us again. Shadows dancing on the ground, hearts are lost but now they're found. In your arms so warm, so near, every fear will disappear. Moonlight serenade of fall, love will find us after all. Through the silence, soft and small, hear my heart it tells it all. Let the world toss and turn, let the midnight lanterns burn. I've got no fear, I've got no tears, as long as you're near. Let the wind change the mood, let if the stars all fade away, if the songs forget to play, I'll still have love as long as you're near. I'll get by without a care. The moon is smiling from a cloud.